What do you remember most about your time at FCHS or in Amnesty here at Collins?
Oh my goodness, well let me think back here. Gosh, I love my time at Fort Collins High School. I think it was like a time for me to kind of start like breaking away and exploring different things. So, having clubs like Amnesty and other after-school activities where you can meet people who have similar interests. I think it was important to start kind of breaking away from just the standard subjects that you learn of like math, science, or you can see there's a lot of other things out there.
What led you to become interested in working in public health?
I guess I had always been interested in public health, but I just didn't know the words for what I wanted to do. I really became interested when I graduated from college, and I traveled through East Africa and India and just started seeing the importance of public health. And it's really like a global approach to solving problems.
What type of work did you do when you were in Nepal?
So for my first trip, I was there to set up public health workshops, specifically with exploited populations. So most of my participants were currently involved in prostitution. And so my job was, besides designing like a small curriculum, to also deliver health information to groups of women that had never spoken about health before. And then my second trip was really focused on my final master's project, but really it had a very strong focus on relief activities.
Can you describe what Nepal was like?
Pre or post disaster?
I guess you can do both if you want.
Yeah, I mean it's changed in a lot of ways, but it's also the same. So Nepal is a very, very traditional country. It's kind of this country that's wedged in Asia, in the Himalayas, but it's also between some like major powers. Like it's right by India, so it's a country that's really tried to like be its own country and have its own unique ideals in the midst of kind of this power struggle. So it's very Asian. The people there are very warm and inviting, and I've never come to a country where I felt so safe and so welcomed. It's really beautiful. Obviously, Mount Everest and the Himalayas are there. The villages are amazing. I've done some trekking over there. But what a lot of people don't know about Nepal is it's also one of the poorest countries in the world. So you're talking about a lot of trash, a lot of disease and death. And so those are things we really don't see about Nepal. And I think that since the earthquake, it's kind of brought it into light that there's a lot of these problems that exist there, and now it's just really exacerbated since the earthquake. So especially things like gender violence and human trafficking is going up in this area because of the conditions.
What is the most memorable thing that happened there?
Oh my gosh, this is a tough one. I made a lot of really good friends while I was there. Gosh, let me think. Oh, it's really hard to narrow it down. Maybe, so culturally in Nepal, they really value family. And when they have foreigners come, if you're lucky, sometimes they like welcome you in as part of their family. So while I was there, I spent time with women and girls who'd either been trafficked, sold into prostitution, but hadn't really had that traditional family structure. So it was awesome to come in and have them call me sister and have us all do things together. Like in Nepal, they love Bollywood, so they always want to like sing and dance together, even though it feels like we're being like 16-year-old girls. So I think like having that experience with them in this very like different cultural setting, but still being able to like dance around and sing and put makeup on each other was fun.
How did the earthquake in Nepal affect your work there?
Oh man, how did it not? So when I was planning to go back to Nepal, it was like a very laid out project. I was interested in trafficking, so I wanted to do a girls' health curriculum that focused on issues related to gender violence that contribute to trafficking. And it was all set. We had the grants. It was going to be, I'd been in Nepal before. I was going to be okay to be there like by myself for an extended period of time. And then when the earthquakes hit, Like, it just changed everything. It was people that I had worked with before who were going to be my contacts on the ground just disappeared. You know, maybe they'd been killed or been trafficked. You know, going in and not knowing what the situation is like, I had my university and a lot of my grantors like pull out because they couldn't back me to go because it was going to be too dangerous. And so the situation changed from going into a village to now going into an active disaster zone.
How do you feel about the work you do?
I like doing it, and that's why I do it. I think it's really hard to be satisfied in areas like public health or human rights because you're just constantly overwhelmed by the scope of the problem, and you can sometimes feel like the things you're doing that maybe it doesn't really matter. So I feel like I love doing what I do, but like each day at a time I have to just be satisfied, you know, with what I'm doing and what those results are.
How can others get involved to help this cause?
Gosh, there's so many ways to get involved, and it doesn't mean that you have to buy a plane ticket and go around the world to places like Nepal. I mean, we have these issues in our own community. So I had a lot of people writing me when I was going over to Nepal asking if they could come with and how they can come to this village. And I can tell you that I started like my career in learning about people like here in Fort Collins. So I volunteered with the Sava Center.
Would Kate Morton please come to the office?
Or just getting involved with projects here and just learning like about the process of helping and what that means. So it's really something that has to start at home.
From your perspective, why is this cause important?
I think any cause that has to do with people is just so important, but especially things like human slavery, human trafficking, and gender violence, I think is going to really define our generation. We're coming to a point where people, it's more profitable to move people across borders than goods like drugs, and that's going to be a defining factor of our generation. But also we know that gender violence is directly tied to development. So it's no coincidence that these countries that have the biggest gaps in gender equality, that have the biggest instances of gender violence, are also the least developed. And we're definitely seeing those links with things like the growth of terrorism, and we're seeing how not investing in these issues overseas is really affecting us here, and that it is going to come knocking in our door, and that we really have a responsibility, not just for our own safety, but really to the world, to invest in things like girls' education, fighting violence.
Yeah, that's all the questions I have, unless
Awesome.
there's just anything else you want to add or want people to know about you or what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a big point is I want them to know that I came from Fort Collins High School, and you know, I didn't know what I wanted to do here in a technique getting through college, you know, to figure out what I wanted to do. But I think to just kind of stick with a cause that fulfills you is just really important for finding a path.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.